Taming of the Shrew, individual oral commentary. Hi, I'm going to be doing passage 4, Act 3, Scene 2, lines 8 to 20. Katerina. No shame but mine, I must forsooth be forced to give my hand opposed against my heart, unto a mad brain roots by full spleen, who wooed in haste and means to wed at leisure. I told you, he was a frantic fool, hiding his bitter jests and blunt behaviour. And, to be noted for a merry man, he'll woo 1,000, point the day of marriage, make feasts, invite friends, and proclaim the banns, yet never means to wed where he hath wooed. Now must the world point at poor Katerina, and say, Lo, there is mad Petruchio's wife. If it will please, come and marry her. The first line talks about how Katerina is always being humiliated. She was forced to marry Petruchio, who she didn't even love in the beginning of the play, and she knew that he was in a rush to get engaged. She reckoned that Petruchio had no intention of marrying poor Katerina. No shame but mine, I must, forsooth, be forced to give mine and opposed against my heart unto a mad brain, roots by, full of spleen, who would in haste and means to wed at leisure. This sentence reflects on how Katerina is affected on being somebody's slave and being tamed by Petruchio, who is her fiancé, but she was never able to decline the request of being his wife. Katerina regrets so much in becoming Petruchio's wife. In this sentence, Katerina is trying to explain that she's so embarrassed and thought that Petruchio only married her for the sake of money and to humiliate her to amuse his friends. She complained to Tranio, who is speaking as Lucentio, about Petruchio and her embarrassing scenes and fussing over how she thinks that Petruchio is always thinking about money. The underlined words in the passage sheet in line 8, which is shame, shows that she is showing exactly how Katerina feels with a painful feeling of humiliation and distress. For the word force, Katerina used to reflect on how she's affected by Petruchio because of his power to control Katerina. Therefore, she is forced to listen and to manage her, instead of Katerina being the person she was in the beginning, the person who wasn't afraid of sharing her own opinion, and the more independent one. But that has all changed since she was forced to be engaged to Petruchio because of her father being so desperate to find Katerina a husband. Lines 12 to 13 is when Katerina is telling Tranio that she knew that Petruchio was a fake the whole time, saying he was a frantic fool. Reflected on what Katerina thought of Petruchio, a wild, crazy person, hiding his better jests in blunt behavior. In my point of view, that meant that she was trying to explain to Tranio that the whole thing was just a joke, only to amuse his friends, embarrassing Katerina herself. Lines 14 to 17 show that Katerina is explaining what Petruchio was trying to be, someone he's not. He was pretending to be this simple, backward guy, but Caterina explains that it was only a gag to amuse all his witty friends. She complains to Tranio that Petruchio probably always goes around proposing to women, setting a date, gets introduced around, send out invitations, and make a public announcement, but thinking that Petruchio has no intention of going through with it. This is a quote. And to be noted for a merry man, he'll woo 1,000, point the day of marriage, make feasts, invite friends, and proclaim the banns. The first sentence, which is line 14, clearly shows sarcasm. Being a merry man, Petruchio is pretending to get away with Katrina's money because she's rich. The second line, which is line 15, shows Caterina is clarifying that Petruchio no doubt spends his time proposing to women for their money, not for love. The third line, which is line 16, Caterina is complaining that she dislikes how Petruchio is a pawn in his game, and never seems to notice that Caterina is hurt whenever he makes jokes to get her humiliated in front of all of his friends, who can also we can call as an audience to Petruchio. Line 17, Caterina is complaining that Petruchio never seems to understand that Caterina is hurt, or even if he gives a damn. The last three lines, which is line 18 to 20, Caterina is telling Tranio what she thinks people would say about her ever since she married Petruchio. Now must the world point at poor Caterina and say, "Lo, there is Matt Petruchio's wife. If it would please, come and marry her." Caterina feels sorry for herself and is worried that people are going to go behind her back and say rude things about Caterina. In conclusion, I think that Caterina is just insecure and was only aggressive in the beginning of the play because she feared that no one will ever love her for who she is, because she feared so. But since she let go and become even more uneasy around Petruchio not being her real self and the more stubborn person that she used to be, Petruchio is a pawn in his game and doesn't respect Caterina at all.